My dear fellow Brits, I'm here today to read to you the first of 3 short stories about the English Revolution of 1649 and its direct impact on the remaining 6 months of 2012. Stories about the restoration of the English and Spanish monarchs as the world's dominant superpowers, the violent and bloody demise of the British and Spanish parliaments as world powers, and the liberation from debt and the European Union of the British and Spanish people. You see, my fellow countrymen, the world's greatest revolution is, ironically, not even called one, for it is still happening. For we British like to take our time and make sure we get things right. If not at first, at least eventually. My brothers and sisters, our revolution is chronicled in all the history books as the death of a king, but do not let the historian's desire for the minutiae distract you from the whole, for time is but a thread in the rich and varied tapestry of life, and like all tapestries, you have to stand back to enjoy its bounty. So, my fellow British men and women, let us stand back together. The English Revolution happened on an exact day at an exact time, the 30th of January 1649 at tea time. It happened when a great man not only spoke of what he believed in, but willingly died for that belief as well. Our revolution did not happen on a battlefield or in a palace or court of law. It happened on a flight of steps leading to the executioner's block. For walking that flight of steps was a man being begged by the very same men who had placed him there to simply sign his own freedom back, beseeching and wailing in angst at the magnitude of the events unfolding before them. Those gathered held their breath. For before them stood a human who willingly and with grace would rather walk to his own death than to be the richest man in the known world, but a slave. While the executioner's victim stood tall and strong, trembling only inside with the foreboding that all men feel before their certain death, he exclaimed in his loudest, boldest voice, "If I cannot tax you without consent, no one can. For if you consent just once, poverty, destruction, death, and ultimately tyranny will follow. This tyranny will eventually, implicitly apply its violent force, for its force will be masquerading as your consent, albeit coerced. This tyranny's coerced violent power will be called something new and exotic to disguise its eternal evil. The names it will choose for its destructive power will become so commonplace that you will openly utter them daily without fear. For tyranny will, by its design and control, make sure you are never taught the true meanings of the words you say. My people, you need law and order, not governance. For governance relinquishes your responsibility to some other power, whereas law and order forces you to live up to your own responsibilities. Any community that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. I die here today, not because of my demise, but solely for my family, my subjects, and my beliefs. You may think I look upon you as my subjects, but I do not. I look upon you as my children, and in my capacity as your father, I bequeath to you centuries of English common law, crown law, law built upon millennia of law before that. My council and the council of my ancestors tested and coded this law for you. All I ask of you is that when you have the means to read it and learn it and discuss it, without hindrance or favour, immerse yourself in it, understand its beauty and its power. For if you do not, by this very action about to take place here today, that with which I bequeath to you with my dying breath will be used against you to enslave you. Now mark my following words with all the seriousness and solemnity with which I tell them. I do not consent to my will, and therefore my consciousness being taken away from me, and to that end I die here today. And if you ever consent to having your will taken from you through either fascism, communism, socialism, or parliamentary democracy, you will die every day. And with those words, the man knelt down, placed his head on the executioner's block, and died. The ramifications of that self-offered regicide are still rippling through the universe today. For never before in the history of all mankind has an individual, and a king at that, who could have so easily had so much, die for his beliefs and for his fellow man, and not for his power and wealth. Die for the notion of self-determination. Die for the notion of liberty. Most academics will tell you that King Charles I, King of England, died because he was a beaten king, and that he said what he said simply so as to justify his previous actions during the Civil War. But their knowledge distracts from their wisdom. For the war was over, a revolution was beginning, a very English revolution, one that would take a long time to evolve. For us Brits do not like to be rushed. In reality, academics only speak of and write about the defeat of King Charles. And let's be honest, who wants to emulate defeat? This is why the greatest man of modern times, bar none, is completely overlooked. What these learned people should be talking about and writing about is the possibility of a gloriously delayed victory and legacy of truly biblical proportions, for bizarrely, it was the Bible that was King Charles's ultimate law. However, if you speak to a certain type of historian, a doctor of English common and crown law, they will relay the exact same story of the execution of King Charles, using the exact same words, but will fashion a very different perspective. With a wry smile, they will tell you that he wasn't beaten at all, rather just playing the long game. For by his act of self-execution, of self-offering, of selflessness, he had played his move to perfection, and it was the ultimate move. It was checkmate. For a doctor of law will tell you that King Charles knew either his words would come true and the power of the monarchy would fall forever, or the monarchy would be restored and be even more powerful than before. And acting as any father would, he protected his son with his own life. For if the throne of England was to be restored, he hoped that his son, his own flesh and blood, would be the most likely phoenix. And if King Charles were correct, the English monarchical model would be adopted throughout Europe, and therefore English reasoning and law would one day truly unite Europe. For you see, true power, real power, cannot be used all the time. It can only be used once, with universe defining consequences. King Charles knew this, and he also knew that the Parliament had just unleashed a new kind of power, and that they had no reckoning on how to really control it. That power was an idea, and the idea was called liberty. He reasoned that if he could bide his family's time, his line of succession would ultimately benefit from their haste. You see, his ancestors had been trying to control power for hundreds of years and had still not mastered it. Yet they, the Parliament, were attempting to control power after only a few hundred days. They were doomed to fail, and to one day become the very thing that they purported to despise, the embodiment of tyranny itself. King Charles knew, when their failures and crimes became apparent for all and sundry, his own line of successors would offer a feasible alternative. And as King Charles foretold, tyranny did follow his immediate execution, and as he had hoped, his son did eventually succeed him to the English throne, and England, because of Charles's actions, would dominate the world for the next 500 years. For you see, when King Charles I's son was about to be enthroned, he spoke, trembling inside with the foreboding that any man would feel before being made king. He exclaimed in his loudest, boldest voice, "If I cannot tax you without consent, no one can." And with those words, the crown was placed upon his head. As I draw my first story to an end, I will leave you with this thought. If England and Spain meet in the European Cup finals in 7 days' time, it will be more than just a trophy that a great monarchical nation will have won. They will have won back their pride in this Jubilee year, which will manifest itself into national self-belief. And the final move of the chessboard will have been put into motion. For England or Spain will kick on to rule the world for the foreseeable future, and due to a unique set of historical circumstances and events, our two nations' futures will be bound for eternity. It is therefore up to every Englishman and Spanishman to make sure that it is a rule of peace and prosperity, a rule of law and order. So, until the 28th of June, the day of our semi-final with Germany, when, in my second story, I will show you why, that in the year of our Lord 2012, King Charles's prophecy will come to full fruition, and his lineage's power finally, fully restored. So until then, I bid peace and prosperity to you all. James Black.
Before you go to sleep can last the whole night through. I can't believe I'm jealous of your peace. I'd give anything to be with you. I could lay here by myself for hours, count the cracks that run across the wall. Need escape, something for myself. I've gotta get away from it all. I'm so wild, I'm so free. Feel my senses deserting me. Eyes wide open, I can't see. I'm so wired, I'm so free. It's funny how the smallest hours, they always last so long. They must have been just as messed up as me. to get the name so wrong. I must have wrote 1,000 songs with 1,000,000 perfect words. They were lost somewhere in my head. I guess they never meant to be heard. I'm so wide, I'm so free. Feel my senses deserting me. Eyes wide open, I can't see. I'm so wired, I'm so free. Total lack of anything that's bad, and not a lack of anything that's real. A total lack of anything that's bad, but it can't go on. Sometimes I mistake myself for God, but mostly I don't even know my name. Some nights I swear that I could fly, if only I could get up off the floor. I'm so wired, I'm so free. Feel my senses deserting me. Eyes wide open, I can't see. I'm so wired, I'm so free. And I'm so wired, I'm so free. Feel my senses deserting me. I'm so tired, but I can't sleep. I'm so wired, I'm so free. And in theory it seems so easy just to walk away and let it be, and be the bigger man, but it's hard. And when I cross the Rubicon, the bridges that I burn cease to matter anymore. Good night.